What if I told you that Western civilization as you know it should never have existed? That the alphabet you read, the democracy you live in, the philosophy that shaped the modern world, it all depended on a few hours in a narrow mountain pass 2,500 years ago. Today, we're exploring the most terrifying alternate scenario in history. What if the Persians had won in 480 BC? Everything, absolutely everything, depended on 72 hours in September, 480 before Christ. 3 days that separated you from living in a completely unrecognizable world. Today we're diving into the most disturbing alternate scenario in Western history. What if the Persians had conquered Greece? Buckle up, because what you're about to discover will forever change how you see history. The giant versus the ant. First, you need to understand just how absurdly unequal this fight was. We're in 480 BC. Xerxes I, King of Kings, Shahanshah of Persia, commanded the largest army the world had ever seen. I'm not exaggerating. Ancient sources speak of 200 to 300,000 soldiers. Even modern historians, being conservative, estimate at least 100 to 150,000 men. To put it in perspective, that's double all the adult male populations of all of Greece combined. Persia controlled territory stretching from Egypt to present-day Pakistan, from the Black Sea to the Persian Gulf. 28 different nations, 50 million people, half the world's population at the time. And Greece? It wasn't even a country. It was a cluster of city-states that spent more time fighting each other than external enemies. Athens had a democracy so new it still smelled of fresh paint, only 28 years since Cleisthenes' reform. Sparta was an isolated militaristic city that barely spoke to its neighbors. Corinth wanted to profit from trade. Thebes played both sides. Xerxes wasn't worried. He was confident. Greece was just the next item on a list of conquests. And by every logical, military, and historical right, he should have won easily. The point of divergence. 3 days that changed everything. August 480 BC. The Persian army crosses Thrace and enters Greece. Nothing can stop them. Nothing. Except a 15-meter-wide strip of land. Thermopylae, the Hot Gates. A pass between mountain and sea, so narrow it negated all Persian numerical advantage. And there, Leonidas of Sparta positioned 7,000 men. No, it wasn't just 300. That's the myth. There were 300 Spartans, but there were also 700 Thespians, 400 Thebans, contingents from other cities. But here's what's crucial. The plan was never to win. It was to delay. For 7 days, those men held the impossible. Xerxes' immortals, the elite of elites, were massacred. 10,000 Persians dead in the first 3 days. Xerxes, for the first time in his life, felt doubt. Until Ephialtes, a Greek traitor, showed them the secret mountain path. Leonidas realized. He sent everyone away, except his 300 Spartans, the 700 Thespians who refused to leave them, and the 400 Thebans. On the last day, they sold their lives for the highest possible price. Every minute they held was one more minute for the Greek fleet to prepare at Salamis. But what if Ephialtes had never betrayed them? What if a storm, like the one that actually destroyed part of the Persian fleet, had been even more devastating? What if Xerxes, demoralized, had ordered a retreat? This almost happened in our reality. But in this alternate timeline, there's no storm. The betrayal happens earlier, on the second day. The Greeks are flanked quickly. Leonidas dies within minutes. The resistance doesn't even last 48 hours. And now, nothing holds back the Persians. The rapid fall, when giants aren't contained. Without the epic sacrifice at Thermopylae, there's no legend. No story of impossible heroism to inspire the Greeks. There's only terror. Week 1. Total panic. When the news reaches Athens, there's no time for Themistocles' plan. Remember him? The strategist who convinced the Athenians to build 200 triremes and use the silver from the Laurian mines to save Greece. Here, his voice is drowned out by chaos. Families flee in disorder. The orderly evacuation of our history becomes a chaotic exodus. The Greek fleet tries to gather at Salamis, but it's disorganized, panicked, without clear leadership. When the Persians arrive, they force battle in open water, not in the straits that would favor the Greeks. Persian numerical superiority, which was their disadvantage at Salamis, here is devastating. Month 2, the Pyre of Athens. Xerxes enters Athens, and this time, there's no strategic Persian retreat. In our history, he burned the city but left after the naval defeat. Here, he stays. The Acropolis burns. The Parthenon, which hasn't even been built at this time, but would be in 30 years, will never be built. Athenian democracy, only 28 years old, dies before learning to walk. Xerxes establishes a satrap, a Persian governor, in Attica. Tributes are imposed. The population is disarmed. Year 1. The fall of Sparta. Sparta, isolated in the Peloponnese, tries to resist. But without allies, without a united Greek front, it's a matter of time. The Persians don't make the mistake of fighting hand-to-hand with Spartans. They besiege the city, cut off supplies, use their cavalry to devastate the surrounding countryside. After months of siege, in a final desperate battle, the 8,000 Spartan warriors make their last stand. All die. But unlike Thermopylae, no one remembers them. There's no Herodotus to tell the story. He was 5 years old when this happened and would grow up in a Persian world. Year 5. End of Hellas, one by one. Corinth, Thebes, Argos, Megara, all bow. Some resist, others surrender. It doesn't matter. The result is the same. By 475 BC, Greece ceases to exist as a political concept. It becomes the Ionian satrapy of the Achaemenid Empire, and with it, die names you'll never know. Pericles, who was 5 years old. Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. All names we would never have known. Persian Europe, an unrecognizable continent. But here's where it gets truly terrifying. Xerxes doesn't stop. 480 to 460 BC, the march west. With Greece secure, the Persians look north and west. The Balkans fall within a decade. Thracian, Illyrian, Dacian tribes all accept Persian suzerainty or are conquered. But the real prize is further south, the Italian peninsula. 450 BC, the Rome that never was. In 450 BC, Rome is a city-state with perhaps 40 to 50,000 inhabitants. It's still governed by a young republic, having expelled their last king in 509 BC. They're busy fighting Etruscans and other Italic tribes. When Persian expeditions explore Italy, Rome doesn't notice in time. A Persian satrapy is established in southern Italy. Soon, Persian diplomats make Rome an offer they can't refuse: peaceful vassalage or annihilation. Rome bows. It becomes a tributary city. There will be no Roman Republic expanding for 500 years. There will be no Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon. There will be no Augustus. There will be no Roman Empire. And without Rome, European history simply doesn't happen. 400 BC, the religious revolution. Here it gets fascinating from a cultural standpoint. Zoroastrianism, the religion of the Persian Empire, begins to spread through conquered Europe. It's not violently imposed. Persians are relatively tolerant, but it's the religion of power, prestige, imperial administration. Fire temples, where the sacred flame burns eternally, begin to appear where Greek and Roman temples would have stood. The Persian concept of duality, Ahura Mazda, good, versus Angra Mainyu, evil, shaping European philosophy. Year 1 AD, the Christianity that never was born. Let's jump forward. Jesus of Nazareth is born in Judea around 1 AD in both timelines. But here's the crucial difference. In our reality, Christianity spread because Paul of Tarsus, a Roman citizen educated in Greek philosophy, transformed Jesus' teachings into a universal religion using Hellenistic concepts. Logos, pneuma, the very Greek philosophical structure. In this timeline, there's no Hellenism. There's no Greek philosophical structure to adapt the message. There's no Roman Empire to pave roads and create linguistic unity that allowed dissemination. Christianity may emerge as a Jewish sect, but dies as one. A few dozen followers in Jerusalem. Jesus is a footnote. 600 AD Islam in an already Persian world. We advance to the 7th century. Muhammad is born in Mecca and receives his revelations. Islam is born. But in this timeline, he doesn't create a religion that conquers an existing empire. He preaches within a world that has already been Persian for 1,000 years. Arabia has already been under Persian cultural influence for centuries, even if not directly controlled. The result? Islam merges more naturally with existing Persian and Zoroastrian structures. There's no explosive Islamic conquest because a massive unified empire already exists. Instead, gradual conversion. By 800 AD, a hybrid Persian Islamic empire dominates from Spain to India, including all of Europe. The world in 1500, 1,000 years later. We advance 1,000 years. What's the world like in 1500 AD in this alternate reality? Political geography, a fragmented giant. Western Europe, Germany, England, all are provinces of an empire that has existed for 2 millennia. But here's the thing. No empire lasts 2,000 years monolithically. By 1500, what we have is more of a loose confederation. Think of the Holy Roman Empire, but on a continental scale and Islamic Persian. There's a Caliph Shah in Persepolis, but regional governors have enormous autonomy. Language, a world without Latin. Think about it. French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Romanian, all Romance languages derived from Latin. English, German, Dutch, all with enormous Latin influence. None of that exists here. Instead, all of Europe speaks variations of Neo-Persian mixed with local dialects. The lingua franca of the educated elite is Arabic Persian. The alphabet? Totally derived from Persian Aramaic. The United States of America would not speak English. It would speak something a linguist would call Mediterranean Euro-Persian, familiar sounds, but Semitic Indo-Iranian grammatical structure. Culture and art, sacred geometry. There's no Renaissance. Why? Because the Renaissance was the rediscovery of lost Greco-Roman texts. Here, those texts were never written. European art is dominated by complex Islamic geometric patterns, arabesques, calligraphy. Realistic human representations are rare or non-existent, considered close to idolatry. Imagine the Cathedral of Notre Dame. but it's a mosque with minarets and breathtaking internal geometric patterns. Science. An interesting paradox. Here it gets fascinating. Science might be more advanced. Why? In our history, Europe had the Dark Ages, centuries of intellectual stagnation. Libraries burned, knowledge lost, the Catholic Church suppressing investigation that contradicted dogma. In this timeline, the Islamic Persian world never had that rupture. Knowledge flowed continuously from antiquity. Libraries in Baghdad, Persepolis, Athens, now a Persian city, preserved and expanded knowledge. Algebra, al-Jabr, already developed earlier. Astronomy, perhaps telescopes invented earlier. Medicine, hospitals, and understanding of anatomy more advanced. Universities in Rome, Lutetia, Paris, Londinium, London, teach Persian mathematics, Zoroastrian Islamic philosophy, Avicennian medicine. But the cost. There's no oceanic exploration as we know it. In our history, Portugal and Spain tried to circumvent the Islamic world to reach the Indies. That desperation created the Age of Discovery. Here, there's no need. The empire already controls land trade routes. There's no incentive to risk everything crossing unknown oceans. Columbus never happens. The Americas remain unknown to the Old World until much, much later. The Americas, development without interruption. On the other side of the Atlantic, American civilizations develop without European interruption. The Aztecs continue expanding. The Inca Empire prospers. North American civilizations grow without European diseases devastating 90% of the population. When contact finally happens, perhaps in the 18th century, it's Chinese or Persian explorers, and they encounter civilizations much more prepared to resist. And today, 2025 in an alternate world, and if we could visit this timeline today, in 2025, what would your life be like? Identity and religion. You'd probably be Muslim, or practice some syncretic fusion of Islam with Zoroastrian elements that persisted. Your calendar would be the Islamic calendar. Your weeks would revolve around Friday, not Sunday. Christianity exists, but it's a minority sect in the Levant. Maybe 2 to 3 million followers worldwide. Judaism persists, but the dominant global religion is this hybrid Islam-Zoroastrianism. Language and communication. You're not reading these words right now, not in this form. English, Spanish, Portuguese, French, Italian, none of these languages exist. Zero. Not even as dead languages, they were never born. You speak American Neo-Persian, a language that sounds completely alien to your current ears, but would be your mother tongue. It has Persian grammatical structure, Arabic Persian vocabulary, with borrowed words from Tupi languages through late contact. And you write from right to left, in curved and connected characters that look Arabic, but with differences. Technology, hard to predict. Did the Industrial Revolution happen? Maybe, but probably not in England, perhaps in Persia or Anatolia. The Enlightenment, that movement that placed reason above tradition, may never have happened the same way. It was based on Greco-Roman ideas of democracy and debate. Computers? Internet? Possible. Mathematics was advanced enough. But the motivation, competition between European nations, Cold War space race, all different. Perhaps technology is more advanced in medical and astronomical areas, but less so in industrialization and computing. Social values, collectivist world. Concepts you consider obvious simply don't exist. Individual rights? That concept comes from Greco-Roman tradition and the Enlightenment. It doesn't exist the same way. Liberal democracy? Never developed. The world is more hierarchical, theocratic. Separation of church and state? Western concept. Here, religion and government have been fused for millennia. Gender equality? Feminist movements of the 20th century were built on Enlightenment ideals. Here, society would be fundamentally more patriarchal. Your normal would be our oppressive. But to you, born there, it would just be the world. Philosophy. The thought that never was. Without Socrates questioning everything in the streets of Athens, without Plato writing about ideal forms, without Aristotle cataloging the world, all Western thought is unrecognizable. There's no Thomas Aquinas trying to reconcile faith and Aristotelian reason. There's no Descartes saying, "I think, therefore I am." There's no Kant with categorical imperatives. The very idea of Western philosophy doesn't exist. Instead, there's Persian Islamic philosophy that dominates: Avicenna, Averroes, Al-Ghazali, but without the challenge and contrast with Greco-Roman tradition. The fragility of history. So, stop and absorb this for a moment. Everything, and I mean everything, that defines you, depended on 7,000 men in a 15-meter-wide corridor in the summer of 480 before Christ. If Ephialtes had betrayed one day earlier, if the storm hadn't hit the Persian fleet, if Leonidas had decided not to resist, you wouldn't be watching this video. This video wouldn't exist. YouTube wouldn't exist. The language we think about these ideas in wouldn't exist. Thermopylae wasn't important because 300 Spartans fought heroically, though they did. It was important because they bought time. 7 days of impossible resistance gave the Greek fleet time to position at Salamis. It gave the Greeks time to believe they could defeat an empire 20 times larger. And that belief, that resistance, it cascaded through 2,500 years of history. Without it, there's no Greek philosophy to question the world, no Athenian democracy to inspire future revolutions, no Alexander the Great to spread Hellenism, no Rome absorbing Greek culture and disseminating it, no Renaissance, no Enlightenment, no French Revolution, no U.S. Declaration of Independence. History is not inevitable. It balances on specific moments, on individual decisions, on battles that last only days, but echo for millennia. Thermopylae was one of those moments, a pivot point, a hinge upon which all of history turned. And fortunately for us, or at least for the version of us that exists in this reality, the Greeks won. But it was by very, very little. So what do you think? Would this alternate world be better? Worse? Just different? Leave your opinion in the comments and tell me, what other historical moment do you think changed everything? If you enjoyed this journey through a history that never happened, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Every week I bring a new what-if scenario that will turn your brain inside out. This is Brothers History. Go ahead and follow the channel, and see you in the next alternate timeline.